My friends, in our fast-moving world, noise surrounds us from the moment we wake up until the moment we fall asleep. The noise of people's opinions, the noise of responsibilities, the noise of technology, and even the noise of our own restless thoughts. In the midst of this, we often forget the quiet power of silence. Silence is not emptiness, silence is fullness. It is not weakness, it is strength. Silence is not avoidance, it is presence. There are two kinds of silence that transform our lives: the silence that heals and the silence that empowers. The silence that heals is like a soothing balm to a tired soul. When we pause, when we sit in stillness, we give our mind the chance to recover from the constant bombardment of thoughts. Silence becomes a medicine, calming anxieties, lowering the temperature of anger, and mending the wounds of stress. Think of a lake. When the winds stop, the ripples disappear and the water reflects the beauty of the sky. Similarly, when we stop creating noise in our mind, the silence within reflects clarity and peace. The silence that empowers, on the other hand, is a silence that strengthens our willpower and magnifies our influence. Sometimes, the most powerful response to criticism is not a reaction but silence. Sometimes, the greatest way to stand strong is not through arguments, but through calmness. Silence gives us the ability to listen deeply to others and to ourselves. It gives us the strength to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. Silence has the ability to make us more compassionate, because in silence we can hear the pain that words often hide. It can make us more creative, because in silence new ideas are born. And silence can make us stronger, because in silence we learn not to depend on noise for our sense of worth. So today, I invite you to embrace silence, not as an escape, but as a practice. Let silence heal you when you are broken. Let silence empower you when you feel weak. And let silence remind you that true strength often speaks the loudest when words are absent. Silence is often misunderstood as a void, a blank space, or the absence of something significant, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful presences in our life. When we say silence is not emptiness, what we truly mean is that silence is a container filled with clarity, awareness, and inner strength. The world around us glorifies noise, whether it is the noise of achievements, the noise of constant talking, or even the noise of social media updates that never seem to stop. In this culture of endless sound and distraction, silence may appear to be nothing, but in fact, it is everything. Silence is like the blank canvas that makes the painting visible, the pause between the notes that makes music beautiful, and the space between words that makes meaning possible. Without silence, life becomes cluttered, distorted, and overwhelming. When we step into silence, we step into ourselves. Silence allows us to hear the voice that often gets drowned under the chaos of the world, the voice of our conscience. That voice may be gentle, but it is wise. It may be soft, but it carries truth. In silence, we discover that clarity does not come from collecting more words, but from listening to what is already present deep inside. This is why silence is not an absence but a presence of awareness. Just as a lamp reveals what darkness hides, silence reveals what noise conceals. It allows us to separate what really matters from what is just distraction. Consider for a moment the way a calm lake behaves. When the surface of the lake is disturbed by waves, it cannot reflect the beauty of the sky. But when the waters are still, the reflection is crystal clear. Our mind behaves in the same way. When we are full of noise, whether that noise is external chatter or internal worries, we cannot see situations clearly, and our decisions become clouded. But when the mind enters silence, it reflects reality as it is, not as we fear it to be. This is why silence is full of clarity. It shows us truth without distortion. Silence also holds strength within it. Many people believe that strength is always about loudness, assertiveness, or dominance, but real strength often lies in restraint. Think about the times when someone provokes us. The easy reaction is to argue, shout, or prove our point. But silence, chosen deliberately, shows a strength far greater than words. It is the strength of self-control, the strength of not allowing another person's negativity to dictate our state of mind. Such silence is not weakness or avoidance. It is an act of empowerment. It is the choice to stay above the storm rather than get lost in it. In silence, we are not running away from the world, we are recharging ourselves to face it more effectively. Silence gives us the ability to endure, to remain composed, and to rise above unnecessary battles. It helps us cultivate patience, which is a rare strength in today's impatient world. In silence, we discover a source of power that no noise can provide, the power of being deeply connected to ourselves. Silence, therefore, is not emptiness. It is a treasure chest of clarity, wisdom, and strength waiting to be opened. Silence that heals is one of the most overlooked medicines in our world today. We often run behind pills, therapies, and distractions to cure the unrest of our mind. But we forget that healing begins when we allow ourselves the time and space to be still. Silence is like a natural remedy that has no side effects, no cost, and no limitations. When we give ourselves even a few moments of silence, we invite calmness back into our system. The heart rate begins to slow, the breathing becomes deeper, and the tension in our body slowly starts to melt away. More importantly, silence heals the invisible wounds, the worries, the disappointments, and the fatigue that constant activity creates in our inner world. In silence, we find an emotional and mental reset that words and conversations often fail to provide. Think about how life feels when we are constantly surrounded by noise. The television speaks, the phone rings, people talk, notifications buzz, and our own mind never stops producing thoughts. This endless cycle of sound does not allow the heart or the mind to rest. We may be physically sitting in one place, but mentally we are scattered in 100 directions. Silence heals because it brings us back into one place, the present moment. When we breathe in silence, we feel grounded. we suddenly realize that much of the stress we carry comes not from reality, but from the noise in our head. Silence helps us distinguish between real problems that need attention and exaggerated problems that our restless thoughts amplify. This clarity itself is deeply healing. Imagine someone who has been running continuously without a pause. Their body will eventually collapse. In the same way, when our mind is running continuously with no break, it also begins to collapse under stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. Silence is like a rest stop on the journey of life. It allows the mind to cool down, to process, and to regain strength before moving forward again. When we choose silence, we are not doing nothing. We are allowing natural healing to take place. Our inner wounds, created by harsh words, rejections, or failures, begin to mend because silence does not judge us. It simply accepts us. This acceptance itself has the power to heal emotional scars that constant talking or advice cannot. Silence also heals relationships. Often, conflicts are worsened not by the original problem, but by the endless exchange of angry words. Silence, chosen wisely, acts as a balm that prevents further wounds. It gives space for emotions to cool, for tempers to settle, and for understanding to arise. A moment of silence can sometimes save years of regret. In this way, silence heals not only the individual, but also the bonds we share with others. Another way silence heals is by connecting us to nature. When we sit quietly in a park, by the sea, or under the shade of a tree, silence amplifies the sounds of life, the rustling leaves, the chirping birds, the flowing water. These sounds are not noise, they are gentle reminders of peace They calm the mind and heal the heart, reminding us that life is far bigger than our small worries. Healing is not always about solving problems. Sometimes it is about giving ourselves the space to breathe and feel whole again. Silence does exactly that. It acts as a gentle hand that wipes away the dust of stress, clears the fog of confusion, and restores the natural strength of the mind and heart. By embracing silence that heals, we invite balance, peace, and renewal into our lives in ways that no external source can truly provide. Silence allows us to reflect and recover from the constant external noise that surrounds our daily lives. From the moment we wake up, we are met with a flood of sounds, alarms ringing, conversations starting, vehicles on the road, notifications on our devices, and responsibilities demanding our attention. This constant bombardment leaves little room for us to pause and ask ourselves how we truly feel or where we are heading. Reflection is a practice that requires space, and silence is that sacred space. In silence, the mind that is usually running in many directions comes back to one point, and in that stillness, we finally see the reality of our inner world. Without reflection, we live reactively, simply responding to the chaos outside. But when silence enters, it gives us the chance to step back and recover the energy that gets drained by this endless noise. When we sit quietly, away from the chatter of people and the hum of technology, something powerful begins to happen. thoughts that were tangled like threads start to untangle. We begin to see patterns in our behavior, the root causes of our stress, and the truths that were previously blurred by constant distractions. Silence creates a mirror for the mind. It does not just stop the noise outside, it reduces the noise inside. And once the inner noise reduces, reflection becomes natural. We start asking questions like, am I living according to my values? Is this path I'm on taking me where I truly want to go? What do I need to change in myself to grow? These questions cannot be answered in a rush or in the middle of constant sound. They need the slow, deep atmosphere of silence. Recovery also takes place in silence. Just as the body requires sleep to heal from the wear and tear of the day, the mind requires silence to heal from the constant overload of information and interaction. Imagine trying to pour water into a cup that it is already overflowing. It will only spill over. That is what happens when we keep feeding the mind more noise without giving it time to recover. Silence empties that overflowing cup. It resets the mind, preparing it to receive new ideas, new learning, and new energy. Without silence, the mind burns out. With silence, it is refreshed. We also discover in silence that recovery is not just about rest, but about renewal. A tired mind, when exposed to silence, begins to reorganize itself. Creativity sparks, solutions to problems arise, and new perspectives form. This is why many breakthroughs in history have come not in moments of noise, but in moments of stillness. A scientist might discover an idea while walking alone. A poet may find inspiration in solitude. And a leader might take the right decision after withdrawing into quiet reflection. Silence has always been a partner of recovery and wisdom. Furthermore, silence protects our inner energy from being drained unnecessarily. So often, the noise of criticism, gossip, or negativity around us pulls us into arguments and drains us emotionally. But when we step into silence, we disconnect from that toxic current and preserve our inner peace. In that preservation, we recover the strength that might otherwise have been wasted on things that do not matter. Silence gives us back to ourselves, and in doing so, it gives us the strength to continue our journey with more balance and more clarity. Just like still water reflects the sky, a silent mind reflects inner peace. When we look at a lake on a windy day, the surface is disturbed, rippling in all directions. No matter how beautiful the sky above may be, the water cannot reflect it clearly. But when the wind dies down and the surface becomes calm, suddenly the sky appears in its full beauty upon the water's surface. Our mind works in exactly the same way. When it is disturbed by restlessness, worry, anger, or constant distraction, it cannot reflect peace or clarity. Instead, it mirrors only chaos and confusion. But when the mind becomes quiet, when silence takes over, then the true nature of peace within us starts to shine through. Just like the sky reflecting perfectly on still water. This inner peace is not something that needs to be created. It is already present within every human being. but it is often hidden under layers of thoughts, emotions, and noise. Silence helps remove those layers little by little until peace naturally reveals itself. People often chase peace outside, through material possessions, through entertainment, or through other people's approval. Yet, the most profound peace can be found within, and silence is the doorway to it. It does not demand anything from us except the courage to pause and be present with ourselves. When we stop running and simply allow stillness to take over, we experience that natural peace which has been waiting quietly inside us all along. Inner peace that comes through silence has a healing quality. It softens anger, dissolves jealousy, and soothes fear. In silence, emotions that once felt overwhelming start to lose their grip. Just like when muddy water is left undisturbed, the dirt settles at the bottom and the water becomes clear. So too, in silence, the turbulence of emotions begins to settle, leaving the mind clearer and calmer. From that state of peace, we make better choices, speak kinder words, and live with greater balance. This is why silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is the presence of harmony. Consider moments in life when we feel overwhelmed by difficulties. The natural tendency is to seek answers immediately, to talk endlessly, or to overthink. But the mind in that state is like a stormy lake. It cannot reflect the truth. If we pause and step into silence, the storm begins to calm. Slowly clarity appears, and with it, a sense of peace. We realize that many of our problems were magnified by our restless thoughts. Silence allows us to see reality as it is, not as our fears or anxieties painted it to be. Another important aspect is how silence deepens our connection with the world. When the mind is quiet, we begin to notice small beauties we normally overlook. The sound of the breeze, the warmth of the sun, the smile of a loved one. These simple things, often drowned out by noise, become vivid when our inner world is still. That appreciation of the present moment creates joy, which is another form of inner peace. In relationships too, a silent mind reflects peace. When we are calm within, our interactions with others are softer and more patient. Instead of reacting impulsively, we listen, we understand, and we respond thoughtfully. Just like a still lake provides a clear reflection for those who look into it, a silent and peaceful mind reflects calmness to those around us, creating harmony in our environment as well. Silence, therefore, is not passive. It is an active force that allows our true inner peace to emerge. Like still water that mirrors the vast sky above, a silent mind mirrors the vast peace already within us, waiting patiently to be discovered. Silence that empowers, strengthens our will, and makes us resilient in the face of life's challenges. Many people misunderstand silence as a sign of weakness, as if being quiet means being powerless or unable to respond. In truth, silence is one of the greatest forms of strength because it requires self-control, awareness, and the ability to rise above impulses. When we choose silence consciously, it becomes a shield that protects our inner stability. It empowers us to remain steady when circumstances shake us and to stay composed when others try to provoke us. Resilience is not about avoiding difficulties, it is about facing them without losing our balance. Silence helps us do exactly that. When we are in silence, we gain the capacity to pause before reacting. This pause is not a small thing. It can change the entire outcome of a situation. For example, when someone insults us, the natural reaction is to fire back with equal or greater intensity. But silence gives us the space to resist that urge. It allows us to process the situation calmly and decide whether the response is even worth giving. In many cases, silence itself becomes the response, showing a strength that words cannot. This restraint, born from silence, strengthens our willpower and makes us more resilient to negativity. Think of silence as a training ground for the mind. Just as the body becomes stronger when it is trained through discipline, the mind becomes stronger when it learns to stay quiet in moments of agitation. The ability to sit silently, to hold back unnecessary words, and to remain composed when emotions run high is a discipline that builds resilience. Over time, silence teaches us that not every situation deserves our energy, and not every argument requires our voice. This awareness prevents us from wasting strength on trivial matters and reserves our energy for what truly matters. Silence also empowers us by deepening our focus. In a world full of distractions, the ability to silence the noise around us and within us is a rare strength. When we enter silence, we can concentrate our energy fully on the task at hand without scattering our attention. This deep focus allows us to achieve more, to think more clearly, and to overcome obstacles with determination. The resilience born from this focus helps us move steadily toward our goals, no matter how many challenges arise along the way. Another way silence empowers is by teaching us endurance. There are times in life when we cannot control what happens outside: loss, hardship, or delays. In such moments, silence helps us endure without breaking. By choosing silence, we learn to sit with discomfort without being consumed by it. This endurance gives us a strength that no external circumstance can take away. It is the kind of power that comes not from dominating others, but from mastering ourselves. Moreover, silence empowers us in relationships. When conflicts arise, silence can prevent us from saying words we may later regret. It allows us to listen deeply and to understand what is really being said beneath the surface. By choosing silence in these moments, we show maturity and resilience, creating space for resolution rather than escalation. People who know how to use silence wisely often become anchors in their relationships, steadying others with their calm presence. Ultimately, silence strengthens our inner foundation. It helps us realize that true power does not always need to be spoken. Sometimes the quiet strength of resilience, patience, and composure speaks far louder than words ever could. Silence empowers us to face life not as victims of noise, but as masters of ourselves, capable of withstanding storms without being shaken. Choosing silence over arguments can be the most powerful response, because silence often says what words cannot. In moments of conflict, the natural impulse is to prove ourselves right, to defend our pride, or to make sure our voice is heard louder than the other. Yet so often, arguments do not lead to understanding, they lead to escalation. The more we argue, the more the ego takes over and the less space there is for peace. Silence, however, disarms the conflict in a way that words rarely do. By choosing not to engage in unnecessary arguments, we protect our dignity and maintain control over our emotions, showing strength rather than weakness. There is a difference between silence born out of fear and silence chosen out of wisdom. Fearful silence suppresses the truth, but wise silence communicates maturity. It says, I value my peace more than winning an argument. When faced with heated words or provocation, silence is not about surrendering. It is about conserving energy for what truly matters. Engaging in every argument drains us, leaves us unsettled, and often damages relationships. Silence, on the other hand, prevents wounds caused by reckless words. Words we may later regret, but cannot take back. It gives us the ability to pause, to let tempers cool, and to respond when clarity returns. Consider how many times in life we regret speaking in anger. The argument may end, but the scars of harsh words remain. Silence spares us from creating such regrets. It acts as a filter, ensuring that only thoughtful, meaningful words are spoken, and everything unnecessary is left unsaid. In this way, silence becomes more eloquent than speech. Sometimes people remember not what we said, but how calm we remained in the middle of conflict. That calmness itself becomes the message, a message of inner strength. Silence also has the power to shift the atmosphere. Imagine two people arguing loudly, each trying to overpower the other with words. The noise builds, emotions rise, and reason disappears. But if one person suddenly chooses silence, the energy changes. The absence of reaction can break the cycle of escalation. It forces the other person to pause, to reflect, and sometimes even to soften. Silence is like water poured over fire. It may not solve everything immediately, but it prevents the flames from growing. In relationships, this choice of silence can be transformative. Many bonds are damaged not because of differences in opinion, but because of the harsh arguments that follow. Silence can save relationships by preventing unnecessary words from being spoken. It creates room for empathy, for listening, and for mutual understanding. Sometimes, what a loved one needs is not a counter-argument, but a calm presence that does not add fuel to the fire. Beyond personal interactions, silence also protects our inner peace. Every time we engage in arguments, we give away a piece of our energy to negativity. But by choosing silence, we withdraw from that battlefield and keep our strength intact. This does not mean we avoid standing up for what is right. It means we learn to discern which battles are worth fighting and which ones are simply distractions. True wisdom is knowing the difference. Choosing silence over arguments is not about being passive. It is about being powerful in a deeper sense. It is the strength of self-mastery, the strength of knowing that peace is more valuable than victory in trivial disputes. When we learn this art, silence becomes our greatest ally, teaching us that sometimes the most powerful response is not in raising our voice, but in refusing to lose ourselves in the noise. Silence sharpens our ability to listen, both to others and to ourselves. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, few people truly listen. Most of the time, while someone else is talking, we are already preparing our reply. We hear their words, but we don't receive their meaning. Silence changes that. When we practice silence, we create space to genuinely hear what another person is saying without interruption, judgment, or the noise of our own thoughts. This kind of listening is rare, and it builds trust, respect, and deeper connections in relationships. People feel valued when they are listened to, not when they are out-argued. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is the presence of attention. When we are silent in a conversation, we signal to the other person that their voice matters. We are not rushing to prove our point or dominate the dialogue. Instead, we are giving them the gift of our presence. Often, people open their hearts more easily to those who listen in silence than to those who constantly interrupt with advice or opinions. True listening does not always require us to respond. Sometimes, silence itself is the response that brings comfort. Think of moments when a friend shared their pain. Words may have felt insufficient, but silent listening provided the warmth they needed. Silence also helps us listen to the unspoken. Not everything people feel is expressed through words. Tone, pauses, and even the choice of silence in a conversation reveal emotions that are deeper than speech. Only a quiet, attentive mind can catch these subtle cues. When we are noisy within, busy with our own thoughts, judgments, or distractions, we miss these signals. But when silence governs our mind, we become sensitive to the things left unsaid. This sensitivity deepens our understanding of others and strengthens empathy. Listening in silence does not stop with others. It extends to ourselves. Many people go through life disconnected from their inner voice because they are never silent long enough to hear it. Our conscience, our intuition, and our deepest desires all speak in whispers, not shouts. If our life is filled with noise, we overlook these whispers and end up living by external expectations instead of inner truth. Silence reconnects us to that inner guidance. In quiet moments, we suddenly become aware of what feels right and what doesn't, which direction inspires us, and what values we want to live by. Without silence, this wisdom remains hidden under the constant chatter of the mind. Another way silence sharpens listening is by removing the pressure to respond immediately. In many situations, people feel forced to speak quickly, which leads to misunderstandings. Silence teaches us the value of pausing. In that pause, we understand better, reflect more deeply, and respond more thoughtfully. That pause often carries more weight than hasty words. It shows maturity, patience, and wisdom. Moreover, silence in listening helps us avoid conflicts. Many arguments start not because of differences in opinion, but because people feel unheard. When someone feels genuinely listened to, even if we do not agree with them, the tension often dissolves. Silence, therefore, becomes a bridge that connects hearts and minds. It creates harmony in conversations where noise might have created division. Ultimately, silence transforms listening from a passive act into an active form of love and awareness. It turns conversations into meaningful exchanges and self-reflection into a journey of truth. By listening silently, we not only understand others better, but also rediscover ourselves in the process. In silence, creativity and fresh ideas often emerge because silence creates the mental space necessary for inspiration to flow. When the mind is crowded with constant chatter, endless tasks, and the pressure of daily life, it has no room to imagine, to innovate, or to dream. Noise demands reaction. But silence allows reflection. And in reflection, seeds of creativity begin to sprout. Some of the greatest discoveries, inventions, and works of art in history were born not in the midst of chaos, but in moments of quiet solitude. Silence is like fertile soil in which the seeds of ideas can grow without being trampled by distraction. When we allow ourselves silence, we step away from external influences that shape our thinking. In the world today, we are surrounded by voices telling us what to think, what to buy, how to act, and even what to believe. While advice and knowledge are valuable, they often drown out our own unique perspective. Silence is the space where originality awakens. In silence, we stop consuming and start creating. We begin to see connections that were hidden before, to combine old ideas in new ways, and to express ourselves authentically. Creativity thrives not in noise, but in the gaps between it, when the mind is still enough to listen to its own whispers. Consider the way many artists, writers, and thinkers describe their creative process. They often speak of retreating into solitude, disconnecting from noise, and waiting in silence for inspiration to arrive. This is not accidental. Silence reduces the clutter in the mind and allows deeper thoughts to rise to the surface. Just as the surface of water reveals what lies beneath when it becomes still, the silent mind reveals ideas that were hidden beneath layers of business. What once seemed impossible or unclear suddenly appears with striking clarity. Silence also gives birth to innovation because it encourages us to question. When we are surrounded by constant sound, we often accept things as they are. But in silence, we begin to ask, why does it have to be this way? Or, what if there's another way? These questions are the foundation of creative breakthroughs. Every invention, from simple tools to modern technology, began with a question asked in silence. The absence of noise creates the courage to challenge the obvious and explore the unknown. Another aspect of silence and creativity is rest. A tired mind struggles to imagine, but a rested mind flourishes with possibilities. Silence gives the mind a break from the burden of constant input, allowing it to recharge. In that refreshed state, creativity flows naturally. Many people find that their best ideas come in moments of silence, during a quiet walk, while sitting alone or in meditation. These moments are not accidental gifts. They are the result of silence, creating room for inspiration. Silence is also essential for problem solving. When faced with challenges, people often overthink, discuss endlessly, and complicate matters. But when we step into silence, the noise of panic settles and solutions begin to reveal themselves. The creative mind emerges only when the restless mind quiets down. Silence, therefore, is not just a space for artistic creativity, but also for practical wisdom. In relationships, silence nurtures creativity in how we approach understanding one another. Instead of reacting with the same repeated words or habits, silence allows us to think of kinder, fresher, and more meaningful responses. It empowers us to bring creativity into love, compassion, and connection. Thus, silence is not empty. It is a workshop for the imagination, a studio for creativity, and a laboratory for innovation. In the quiet, we give birth to ideas that noise would never allow us to hear.